Chapter 17, in which Todd and Audrey Pratchett cope without Princess Kitty. The warm summer breeze blows endlessly, touching the hearts of those who feel somewhere in the city. It's been a few days since Princess Kitty's departure for a soul expedition. But luckily for Todd and Audrey, in the final days of school, they meet two new friends. The first is a girl who is about the same age as Todd. She has blonde hair that she ties into pigtails that are held by two plaits, and teal eyes in a white shirt, beige sweater vest, gray skirt, and brown loafers with a red heart-shaped charm tied around her neck. Her name is Francine. Most of the kids either call her Frances or Frankie. The other is a boy with dark skin and black hair, and wears a red shirt, blue pants, and red shoes. His name is Danny. At first glance, they were reluctant at first, but after a few days, they began getting along with the Pratchett children. Wednesday was the last day of school. Todd and Audrey were walking with Danny and Francine, telling them about Princess Kitty, their friend they made for the past few days. They even told them about their adventure with her and Grandpa Jack, who's been far from home after 20 years. However, Francine was the most bemused when it comes to hearing about it. "You guys sure are weird," she said. "Yeah, you could say that," Todd said, smiling. "But what's so wrong about it?" "So when are we going to meet her?" Danny asked. "In 3 weeks, that's what her family said," Audrey said. "She's in a soul expedition to make friends with grown-ups." "Grown-ups, you say?" Francine asked. "A girl making friends with grown-ups? I find it hard to believe." "Not as hard as becoming a pig," Todd said. "I'm glad you and your sister aren't turned into bacon," Danny said. "True," Todd said. "Grandpa helped Kitty on saving the children from the slaughterhouse after they turned into pigs, and the cat bus defeated the army, and Kitty defeated the Baron by making him eat his own sweets." "Another reason why people shouldn't eat too much sweets," Francine said. "I know. And what a lesson that was," Todd said. "One time, a man died of a heart attack from an eating contest against her." "How terrible," Danny said. "But nothing like this could ever happen again," Todd said. "We'll be having fun at the playhouse back home. Want to come later?" "No, I'm pretty busy helping my dad with chores for next week," Francine said. "I'll tell my dad if I can visit you," Danny said. "I live in the same block." "That's great," Audrey said. "At least you have someone to play with you," Francine said. "I hope you don't have too tough a time." After saying goodbye to Danny and Francine, Todd and Audrey take the long way home. "Oh, Todd," Audrey said. "I guess we'll be fine now that we made new friends after Kitty left us." "And things will turn out fine when she sees us again at the bicentennial," Todd said. "Do you think we'll be on that blimp?" "We have to for her sake. If it were her dream, her one summer dream, we hope it came true." In nearly an hour, they reach home and head inside the living room where the grandparents are waiting. "So, children, how was your last day of school?" Grandpa Jack asked. "It was great," Todd said. "We made new friends." "You do?" "One of them named Danny might visit here. He lives in the same neighborhood." "Well, in case he comes here, maybe he'll have some peach cobbler," Mrs. Pratchett said. "Any more friends you make at school?" Grandpa Jack asked. "There's this girl named Francine, but she's not coming," Todd said. "She's busy helping around during summer vacation." "Some children can't even wait to become grown-ups, can they?" Grandpa Jack asked. "I guess it's their loss if we happen to be the luckiest family alive. For them, at least."
"That John Pratchett,"
Grandma Eileen said.
"always stuffing your heads with the most childish things. I'm still wondering why he still acts so young."
"And you might wish it's a felony punishable by death," Grandpa Jack shouted. On the Pratchett's radio, they can hear the voice of Clayton Woolbury, reporting an anticipating event where the Providence may begin a renaissance of modern proportions.
And now, details on the announcement that has captured the attention of the entire world. In 3 weeks, in our own city of Kodono, what we'll have on our sky is the marvelous Zeppelin Providence, which will continue the tradition of having dirigibles fill the sky as we celebrate the city's 200th birthday.
Out of all the news that's been told,
Grandma Eileen moaned,
looks like I'll be more superstitious against flying than usual. What if that dirigible everyone was talking about ends in disaster?
It will not, Grandpa Jack said. Now stop worrying about that Zeppelin.
The world has already lost the Akron after it crashed during a storm.
Well, the Providence is sure as hell not going to be the next Akron.
Quiet,
Mrs. Pratchett said. Clayton Woolbury continues.
Now we take you to Dorothy Chandler from inside the hangar where the Zeppelin is housed in Empire City, New York.
Then the Pratchetts can hear a distinct feminine voice from the radio.
This is Dorothy Chandler, reporting from Providence Base 1 in Empire City, just on the other side of the world. And how proud I am now, for the attention of the entire world focuses today right here in the city that never sleeps. A community suddenly thrust into prominence by the Zeppelin that shall soon be flying over the skies of Kodono during the city's bicentennial celebration. Already we have reports from Empire City coming in that the anticipation for the departure is phenomenal. Already celebrations were being held in every hotel, from the Astor to the Waldorf Astoria, at a rate to boggle the mind of the wealthy and the newly rich. Truly, it is incredible the way that blimp fever brought by the WAPA has descended upon the globe. While the world had their eyes up in the clouds, we watch and wait, wondering where the future will bring, and how long will the spirit of freedom keep its solemn promise to continue taking control of the open air.
An hour later, the doorbell rings and Mrs. Pratchett answers. Standing at the doorstep was Danny and his father. His father also had dark skin, but has gray hair. He looks fat and well-fed.
Well, you must be Danny, and with your father, she smiled. My children are expecting you.
Oh, they do they? Danny's father asked.
Oh, yes, they're in the backyard. Is it okay if he can play with them?
That's fine with me. In the kitchen, as soon as Danny heads out the back door, she asked,
Why don't I make you something to eat?
No thanks, Danny's father said. I just ate lunch, but we'll talk about something.
What do you want to talk about? Mr. Pratchett asked.
I've been hearing this talk from your kids about this princess girl, Danny's father said. What was her name? Princess Kara, Princess Kayla, Princess Kiki,
Princess Kitty.
Yes, that's it, Princess Kitty. Sorry if I couldn't hear properly.
Is that so? Mrs. Pratchett said. Why did you want to bring this up?
My son told me about her from your children after he comes home from school, Danny's father explained. I've decided to come here anyway to see what all the fuss is about. Is she some sort of imaginary friend or something?
She's more than an imaginary friend, Mr. Pratchett said. If she is, then she might as well be seen by both children and grown-ups. Todd told me that she disguises herself as Katie of Corico after the incident she pulled on Mrs. Malchance. We happened to see her as a little girl before he told me the truth. She may be that friend, but I'm guessing she'll do worse. She even tricked a man into an eating contest at the bakery and died of a heart attack.
Oh, she did she?
Danny's father said. But I think it will get better, now that our children make new friends, even your son, Mrs. Pratchett said. Dear, you really believe in her, did you?
Mr. Pratchett's head lowered.
What is it? She said.
You heard your wife, Danny's father said. Is there something you would like to tell us?
I said that just to make my children feel better after the incident with Mrs. Malchance, Mr. Pratchett said. My children and the grandparents didn't know it, especially my father.
Well, what if they do? Danny's father scowled. That's what I want to know.
I hardly believe in anything. I'm a grown-up. Grown-ups always have time for work and no play, do they? Let's hope it stays that way until the fair, Mrs. Pratchett said.
If you didn't tell, I won't either, Danny's father said.
I wouldn't want to let my own child down with talks about this princess of yours."
"It's like as if the children of the whole world wants in on this, after my children tells it all on them," Mr. Pratchett said.
"What if they spread talks of this Princess Kitty to the other children, like mine?" Danny's father asked. "He's young. He could handle it. Are you going to the bicentennial too? My Danny's just about as excited as going there in 3 weeks."
"My husband will take the children," Mrs. Pratchett said. "Don't worry about that," Mr. Pratchett said. "It'll pass. They'll move on to something else. Eventually, like your son, our children will have to grow up."
"I'll come by and pick him up tonight," Danny's father glared and turned away, leaving the living room.
At the backyard, Todd, Audrey, and Danny were at the playhouse with the stuffed animals. "This is where we first meet her," Todd said. "My sister was the first to see her in the bushes when we're getting ready for our tea party." "I wish I meet a catgirl like her," Danny said. "It's just that I'm jealous." "You would see one in KAWAII Wonderland," Audrey said. "She has lovely parents who are the king and queen of the kingdom." "Sis is right," Todd said. "But we must always remember what she said to us. When something that isn't real comes around the corner, then it must be believed to be seen." A strong wind began to blow through the backyard tree. The branches sway as the bells tied to them did their ringing. They looked up and smiled, for it has a new purpose now. "Why don't we have a special party at our house for making new friends with you and Francine at the last day of school?" Todd said. "We never said it better ourselves, now that summer has begun." Yes, my readers, today is just another new day indeed. As for Princess Kitty herself, without the Pratchetts for 3 weeks, where would she go from here? This concludes Volume 2, Princess Kitty's Adventure in Bavaria. The story of Princess Kitty of KAWAII Wonderland will continue in Volume 3, Princess Kitty's Adventure at Sea. This work was written by Byron Kingsley and dramatized for audio by the author. This has been a Studio Kingsley production. Thank you for listening.